Hello, hello. Uh, 1 second while we test if we're still going.
So it's literally in the tweets. Anyway, Biden today has announced that.
Let's hope that. Sorry, guys. Ugh. I shouldn't have tried so hard to start on time. All right. Everything seems to be going. The stream seems to be going. Apparently, this is my life now. So we are going to have fun screwing with Carl of Swindon again. Because, just because, apparently we're going to look at, I guess it's a clip from one of their streams. And I got about 3 minutes into it, and I said, yep, we're doing this, so let's do this. We're going to find... We're going to have a lot of fun.
Lifting his terrorist ban. And it is his. It came from him and Obama. But this he says, it beyond contravening our values, these executive orders and proclamations have undermined our national security. That's right. Not allowing the terrorists into the United States undermines the national security of the United States.
Okay, so first, you'll notice Carl, of course, as always, conflating Muslim with terrorist. I wonder why that is. You'll also note the United States has had plenty of terrorist attacks in the past year. We had several terrorist incidents where terrorists stormed capitals of states and the federal government. So it doesn't seem to be working, Carl. That's all I have to say to that one. But of course, it's easy. We have to just write it off because Muslim equals terrorist, and we all know Carl's history on that.
It's weird. It's the way Biden looks at the world. It's jeopardized our global network of alliances and partnerships and are a moral blight that has dulled the power of our example over the world. They have separated loved ones, inflicting pain that will...
If Carl cannot see how Russia and China have been muscling in on the United States turf, especially in the Muslim world, that just proves he hasn't read a newspaper in about 3 years.
Ripple for years to come. They're just plain wrong. So there we go. That shows you exactly where Biden's priorities lie. It lies with making sure that terrorists are reunited with their families and that American families...
Again, not everyone who lives in a Muslim country is a terrorist.
Are more vulnerable.
I just love the idea of... It reminds me of Clinton as the mother of ISIS. Like, the terrorist ban has harmed our alliances. Which alliances are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly,
yeah. Alliances such as with Egypt, which is a pretty important strategic partner. And now, thankfully, the UAE, who is an important strategic partner in solving the Yemen crisis, which is one of the worst humanitarian disasters in human history.
Our relations with ISIS have never been worse.
I mean, that's not true because Trump, remember, pulled out and let ISIS have free run of the country, and now they're back.
But instead of a ban, the White House says it will improve the screening of visitors by strengthening information sharing with foreign governments and other measures. Yes, the government of Somalia is notoriously trustworthy, and we're going to be sharing lots of information with them, and that certainly won't increase terror.
You realize that, like, when they say sharing information, they mean, like, passenger information on the airline of where people come and go. Like, they're not giving them nuclear secrets. They're just telling them, hey, there's this really suspicious guy named Carl Benjamin who got onto a plane, and we're holding him at the airport right now. If the UK government could send us some information about his criminal record, we couldn't let him in as long as he passes. That's the kind of information they're sharing.
Terrorism. Within 120 days, Biden said he wanted his Secretary of State and Homeland Security Director to provide a review of current vetting procedures and information sharing, along with the recommendations for revising them.
Oh, wait. You can't do that, Carl. You can't just scroll past all of the information in the article, right? So then, didn't end till he skipped over. Let's scroll this. So-called Muslim ban went through multiple iterations before it was finally upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2018. The original ban affected refugees from Syria, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. There are many parts of the country, by the way, that rely on immigrants from these countries in order to prop up their failing economies, because they're all economies of white people who are aging out of the labor market. Just so you know.
And Homeland Security Director
List of countries change over the course of a protracted court battle, all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, the list consists of Iran, Libya, Somalia, Syria, and Yemen, and 2 that are not Muslim, North Korea and Venezuela. So they had specifically added North Korea and Venezuela, remember, to get past the fact that all the countries were Muslim. That's kind of showing the hand. Carl, of course, skips all of this context.
provide a review of current vetting procedures and information sharing along with the recommendation.
Last January, the Trump administration added 6 new countries: Nigeria, Myanmar, Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Sudan, and Tanzania to its list of restricted countries. That's a lot of countries. And, okay, so not all of them are majority Muslim. Nigeria, for example, I believe is still majority Christian, but it has a huge Muslim terrorist problem, shall we say. And in fact, it's probably the primary relationship that Joe Biden was talking about, because the government of Nigeria has been one of the United States' strongest partners in anti-terrorism operations on the continent of Africa. Boko Haram and all that shit. So, we all remember when Donald Trump made that horrific phone call to was he a Marine? I believe he was a Marine pilot who got killed in Nigeria, or somewhere in that theater. And he couldn't even give the mother his condolences. You all remember that, right? The reason that happened, and only one American died in that operation, is because most of the operations are carried out by Nigerian soldiers. And when the United States banned Nigeria, even though most of the population is pro-government anti-terrorism, like they support their government flushing out terrorists, because, again, a lot of people in Nigeria are also Christian, neither Abrahamic faith. They're really, really dedicated to helping us root out a bunch of terrorists who have taken up residence in their borders and just outside their borders, let's be fair. Sometimes the active operational border is a little bit past where the United Nations recognizes it. Anyway, when Trump added Nigeria to the list of banned countries, everyone in Nigeria was really fucking confused, because we were their ally. Like, no Nigerian terrorists had killed anyone in the United States, and lots of Nigerians were literally paying in blood for security in the broader global community. And putting them on a travel ban register is kind of awful for that partnership, if you want that partnership to keep working. And the United States depends on its local allies to fight these kinds of conflicts. Like, The United States has the biggest military in the world, yada yada. Yes, it does, but it can't do everything by itself. That's why presidents, since fucking George Bush the First, have tried and failed repeatedly to find the magical air campaign that can fix problems. That doesn't exist. We need local allies and troops on the ground. Even if they're not American troops, or British or French or whoever your interventionist of choice happens to be, there need to be people on the ground to enforce those airstrikes, and that's why the magical air war has never materialized. I mean, the closest is probably Serbia and Kosovo, where basically all we did was try to annihilate Serbia's offensive projecting power, and Kosovo just kind of clung on to dear life. That's the closest you got to a magic air war that miraculously wins the objective and doesn't kill any Americans.
Recommendations for revising
Of course, Americans did die in that operation. A couple.
them. I find this really interesting because it kind of implies that, okay, if the ban's being lifted now and in 120 days, that this will be this review will have been conducted. What happens in that intermediate time? Is there no particular vetting process beyond the normal one, I suppose? Is it just
You're not reading the article, Carl. It's right there in front of you. Within 120 days, Biden said he wanted Secretary of State and Homeland Security Director to provide a review of current vetting procedures and recommendations for revising them. Amazing.
intermediate time? Is there no provider?
Wait.
Never been worse.
Oh, man.
But instead of a ban, the White House says it will improve the.
It doesn't say here. I'm going to look it up. And I can't frickin' share with you the screen because it's such a pain in the ass. We will adjust them. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Accordingly, I hereby proclaim. It's just listing on all of the various executive orders that Trump signed that contributed to the travel ban. Because again, even as Carl's own article notified us, it was adopted piecemeal. But let's see. There's no date of action in the executive order itself. So, I mean, I just wanted to double check to see if the executive order went into effect 120 days from now or not. Doesn't look like it. Looks like it was just immediate. So that leaves us with the obvious answer, Carl. People who come into the United States still have to pass security checks. Like, that's why if you cause a ruckus on a plane, an air marshal will beat the shit out of you, and you'll be abandoned in Bangor, Maine, almost always, and forced to find your own way home. Like, there's a middle ground that currently exists for the entire planet between the Muslim ban and standard travel restrictions to the United States. If anything, you should be more happy because in 120 days, the United States will have a much more comprehensive vetting process, which will be able to screen more terrorists. I don't know why Carl is against that. Because The only thing that the travel ban would do is prevent people from coming directly from those countries, not people who have traveled through those countries. And that means loophole. So, according to Carl, we currently have no security checkpoints on the way into the United States, either at airports or on the borders, which is true for a lot of it, but that's just Canada. So Carl thinks that he can just walk over to the United States without a passport, without a small background check, maybe, without anyone checking the no-fly list. Admittedly, the no-fly list is really unreliable. But those things happen. Like, he's not taking away all vetting processes. He's just restoring these 11 countries, I believe it is in total, to normal. That's all.
This will be this review will have been conducted. What happens in that intermediate time? Is there no particular vetting process beyond the normal one, I suppose? Is it just like a window of opportunity for terrorists to get into the United States? I guess we'll find out, won't we?
How many terrorists have actually gotten into the United States since they started screening for them specifically?
But anyway, for some reason,
Carl doesn't mention that number. I'm sure it just slipped his mind.
the new White House press secretary Jan Psaki suggested that Biden hadn't called Trump's Muslim ban xenophobic.
Hey, look at this. Oh wait, this isn't the one.
Was literally the primary...
Just remember what Carl said, that the press secretary had said Joe Biden had not called the Muslim ban xenophobic.
Term he used. She said that...
Said it's not fair to say Biden called Trump's COVID travel ban xenophobic. So Carl can't even read the headlines anymore. Carl has gone from reading nothing to reading the headlines to not even being able to read the headlines. That's good. Okay, maybe he misspoke. Maybe. But he has it right in front of him. He never corrects himself. So I feel like he didn't notice.
I don't think that's quite a fair articulation. But the thing is, I mean, if we can scroll down a bit, we can see the tweets in which he literally is using...
Let's see. All right, so we're gonna actually follow this through. The second tweet is easier to read, so I'm just gonna read that first. We are in the midst of a crisis of the coronavirus. We need to lead the way with science, not Donald Trump's record of hysteria, xenophobia, and fear-mongering. He's the worst possible person to lead our country through a global health emergency. That is dated February 1st, 2020. Remember, at February 1st, 2020, Joe Biden was a dead candidate. He was the dead horse. But also, importantly, February 1st is before Trump's China ban. Like, he didn't do it. Okay, look. All right. Oh no, I stand corrected. It was January 31st. Okay. I thought it was still in February. Never mind. So that was an actual response to it. Probably. But again, he doesn't say anything in this tweet about the travel ban. He just says that Donald Trump has a record of hysteria, xenophobia, and fear-mongering, which is true. But he doesn't say anything about the specific travel ban. So what does that mean? I wonder. Now, again, the dates, it's plausible. This is what he was inferring. Well, possibly. But again, that's just an inference, right? Second, stop the xenophobic fear-mongering. Be responsibility. Do your job. Maybe that's cut off. Possible. I'm going to try to read Trump's tweet. I always treated the Chinese virus very seriously and have done so from the beginning, including my very early decision to close travel from China against the wishes of almost all. Again, Trump did not close travel from China. He just closed it to ethnic Chinese citizens. You could still vacation in China and come home sick if you wanted to. You could have been a Frenchman who traveled from Paris to Beijing and then to New York directly. That's something that could also happen. Carl, you idiot.
Using the word xenophobic to describe the ban. Stop the xenophobic fear-mongering. Be responsible. Do your job. You know, it's not Donald Trump's record of hysteria, xenophobia, and fear-mongering. It's like he's literally using. So why would you?
I mean, I'd also point out that these tweets are from a year ago. And again, March 18th is after Super Tuesday, yes? So Joe Biden was probably a contender at that point. But Joe Biden, February 1st, was not a contender for president of the United States. He had no support until the miracle South Carolina swing. And now, Psaki's answer is kind of true. I mean, I'll halfway agree with this Fox News article that it's a little disingenuous to suggest that he never called it xenophobic. But the office of the president did not. And I can tell you he did not because I'm looking at the executive order right here on my screen, which I'm not going to bother to unshare and then reshare and then unshare and then reshare.
Come out and say that. That's an obvious lie.
But I could put a link to it in the chat if you guys want.
The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and all these, Washington Post, they're not going to be fact-checking Biden in the same way they fact-checked Trump, and they just came out and said, no, we're not going to bother doing that. So, okay, well, I don't want to have to do that myself.
I mean, there were a lot of things that Trump said in the campaign trail that the press did not hold against him until those things became policy.
But on this particular case, just fact-checkers found this false. He did call it xenophobic. Why are you lying about this? But yeah, so it's literally in the tweets. Anyway, Biden today has announced that he's going to be banning Europeans from going to America. I don't
good job, Biden.
really know why, to be honest. Well, I do know why, but like it just seems really just xenophobic.
Biden banned South Africa visitors, so that's Carl's definition of European, and reinstates restrictions on non-U.S. citizens from UK and much of Europe. Let's go.
Frankly, Joe Biden is
that's the standard we're using.
Yeah, if that's the standard we're using.
It's very anti-white of you. Is that what we're going with this?
I mean,
because that's if we have his worldview, that's
South Africa is not a white country, you fucking moron.
essentially what it is. Which of course it isn't. It's
no.
This area has a lot of COVID, therefore we should stop travel from it.
But if we were left wingers, then we would have no other way of describing it than being racism against white people. Joe Biden has announced that travelers from South Africa will also be.
It's also just a blanket ban.
Barred from entering the United States as a new coronavirus variant surges through the country. Additionally, the president has extended restrictions that target travelers from Ireland, the UK, and 26 countries in Europe. These restrictions were expected to expire on Thursday due to a proclamation signed by Trump, but Biden has since overturned that proclamation.
So the restrictions are already in place. Like as we are speaking right now, these restrictions are in place. So the UK, Ireland, 26 countries in Europe, they can't travel to and from the United States because they have novel strains of coronavirus. So does the US, but, to each their own. Donald Trump signed an executive order last week that undid the travel bans. But here's a question. Who signed the travel bans in the first place? So who signed COVID-related travel bans that would have forced Donald Trump to unban them? Let's think about this for a moment. So I feel like the answer is right on the tip of our tongues. It's right in front of us. We can find it together if we look hard enough. So Barack Obama in, let's say, 2015, banned all travel from the UK, Ireland, and 26 countries in Europe. And he did that because in 2015, there were novel strains of COVID-19 in Ireland and the UK. And Donald Trump, just before he left office 5 years later, decided to unrestrict travel from those countries. That's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened. Trump just didn't know about it for 4 years. He had no idea that we were restricting travel from Europe because of COVID for the 4 years of his presidency. He just found out about it last Monday. That's what happened. That's what happened. Let's keep going.
And Jen Psaki again says, beginning tomorrow, international travelers to the US must provide proof of a negative test within 3 days of travel to the airlines prior to departure. Restrictions on the country have been in place since mid-March, and Brazil was added in May. So
wait, mid-March? No, it was Barack Obama who signed this into law. Otherwise, that would be suggesting that the person who put the travel bans into place was Donald Trump.
Just inverting everything.
And I know that can't be true.
And speaking of inverting everything, Biden has, of course, lifted Trump's ban on trans.
Do you think Carl realized what he was saying and then abandoned the article?
And people serving in the military. Now, there are legitimate arguments on both sides of this particular conversation. For example, people should have the right to try to be able to serve. I mean, you might not succeed, you might fail the entry tests, but you as a citizen should be able.
If you know any American veterans, you probably know one trans veteran. Transgender people have the highest service rate of any demographic in the United States military. Out of anyone. Whites, Hispanics, Black people, men, women. Regardless of whatever your demographic, trans people have the highest rate of service. For many, because it was one of the few ways they could guarantee themselves health care for transition. But it's a very, very high number. I think it's something like 4% of all trans people or something like that. It's a very high number for a military that is only like 1/2 of 1% of the population.
Theoretically, to try. I can see you giving me a cross-eyed look, but
how does this apply to a medical condition? Because
I'm giving you the arguments on both sides.
I understand, but the argument from the opposite side will be what we say on if you have this medical condition, this one or this one, we just say no. We're not even going to try you.
Well, apparently, transgenderism is not one of those medical conditions.
Okay.
Yes, because it's not a disease.
According to Imperator Biden. Obviously, the arguments on the other side are, well, I mean, what if you're in a war zone? How are you going to get hold of your vital medical needs, like the medicines that,
Yeah, how are you going to get access to medicine in a war zone? I mean, if you can't go into a war zone without being really sure that you're going to have access to medicine, How are you going to do that?
Your hormone injections and things like that. I mean, like we were going to prioritize ammunition, but
I'm trying to think of another counter argument, which would probably be, you keep them away from the front lines in the same way we don't let women go to the
The United States military subsidizes Viagra, by the way.
front lines in the
Sure.
British Army.
yeah, sure. And that's
then-
Again, Viagra, perfectly fine to have in the front lines. But HRT, not allowed. Not allowed to Carl.
pretty reasonable.
You have to be combat ready still. You are a reservist.
Sure, but I mean that just is an argument for saying women should be in the military, isn't it?
It is. Let's move on.
Carl's little smile there. He doesn't want women in the military.
I'm
Apparently-
joking.
But no, I actually do think that in non-combat roles these things are fine, because I mean you need
A woman is a medical condition.
you,
Sorry, it's just
It wasn't even sarcastic.
funny.
you do need you do need personnel working behind the scenes and doing administrative jobs.
I don't know. We should send this to Christy.
And there's no particular reason that a man or a woman or a transgender person can't do those things. I do think that, though, when it comes to frontline combat, there are other concerns, and I think that transgenderism shouldn't be one of those things that's like at the forefront of the minds of the soldiers when they're currently engaging in combat. But
You know what? We're just gonna Google it right now. Let's find out. All right. There's a list of medical conditions that can keep you out. Hearing, endocrine disorders, paralysis, other deformities, arthritis. Well, that rules me out. I had arthritis when I was 28. It's just kidding. I'm a Navy person. Don't worry. Would never join the Army. No offense to all of our Army viewers. Well, that's the list of everything that would disqualify you. And again, it's worth pointing out that being transgender is not like a medical condition. No, doctors don't recognize that as a medical condition, and they haven't for quite a few years at this point. Let's see. Reducing tobacco use and all that shit. Oh, this is interesting, isn't it? So, here's something interesting, which I'm going to bother to take the hard time and stop screen, share screen, opera tab. Sorry, I'm narrating myself. This is a post from the CDC regarding military readiness. Cigarette smoking is the leading cause of preventable death and disease in the United States. Over 16 million Americans have at least one disease from smoking. 480,000 Americans die from smoking-related diseases each year. Tobacco use harms military readiness by reducing service members' physical fitness and strength. It also makes them more likely to become sick, get injured. Tobacco also cost the DoD $1.8 billion in medical and non-medical costs in 2014. Just 2014 was $1.8 billion because too many soldiers smoke cigarettes. The percentage of service members who smoke cigarettes has historically been higher than that of the general adult population, but has been dropping in recent years, along with declines in smoking in the general population. In 2011, nearly 1 in 4 active duty personnel reported that they currently smoke. Again, an addictive drug that we allow people to serve in the US military with. Percentage of service members who use smokeless tobacco is also higher than in the general population. E-cigarette use is increasing among service members. Helping service members quit. CDC's Office on Smoking on Health has worked with the DoD and the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to develop a military-focused ad for the 2016 TIPS campaign. The TIPS website includes tailored content on dedicated cessation resources to help service members and veterans quit. How much money do you think that research cost to target a program specifically to military personnel to help them quit smoking? They're still allowed to serve, even though they're smoking and getting God knows what respiratory diseases. They're allowed to. That's fine. They're able to get their SIGs on the front lines. That seems a little weird, don't you think? Seems just a little weird. But no, it's the HRT. It's a bottle of pills that weighs what? 5 grams that'll last you for 2 months that Carl has a real problem with. That's just dumb. All right, let's go back to Carl. Hey, Carl. I remembered to share audio. Yes.
But anyway, moving on. All of these changes are, of course, radically inverting everything that Donald Trump has done, and the Washington Post, in this one opinion piece, is not very sympathetic. And I can't get over the tone that is being approached with this. Because if this is Joe Biden's view of unity, if this is the unity that we're all expecting, right, I am not interested in it. So
Carl's not interested in unity. Of course not. He's much more interested in pandering to terrorists.
The real problem that many social conservatives have is that they have a strict and hidebound perspective on matters of gender and sexuality, and to them the idea that people can't even be transgender just seems wrong. Now that's true. The conservatives don't recognize the distinction between sex and gender. They think that one is informed by the other biologically. The radical left believe that there is, and people who are in the middle try not to think about this at all, presumably. And so they tend to oppose any expansion of rights for trans people. Now, that's not the only reason they...
What is he reading from? He's not reading from this article. He's just scrolling it. I don't know what he's reading this from. Like, I've been skimming the article the whole time. I didn't actually get this far in my original run of the video. But so far, he's not talking about trans people. So
that's true.
What's going on?
The conservatives don't recognize the distinction between sex
I mean,
and
here
gender.
it is at the bottom right here. But
one is informed by the other biologically. The radical left...
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. I saw it.
Gender. They think that one is informed by the other.
Don't worry, I take it back, Carl. You were just scrolling past where your audience could see. Good job. They say allowing transgender troops will hurt readiness, and there's no evidence that it does. Well, wait a second. That's not what Carl...
Radical left believe that there is.
Strict hidebound perspective on marriage. To them, the idea that people can even be transgender just seems wrong, so they tend to oppose expansion of rights. Trans people...
And people who are in the middle try not to think about...
So, Carl's not reading off the article. That's why I got confused. He's just inserting his own editorial and passing it off as its own editorial within the article. Of course, that's what he's doing. My bad. This is what happens when I go in blind.
About this at all, presumably. And so they tend to oppose any expansion of rights for trans people. Now, that's not the only reason they oppose expansion of rights, because as far as they're concerned, there is no such thing as an expansion of rights. The amount of human rights there are is exactly equal to the number of humans that there are, and that will never change in the sort of American conservative.
But we're not talking about human rights. We're talking about civil rights. Human rights can't be denied. Civil rights can be expanded and retracted. There's a difference in the words, Carl. And you're using the wrong one. But of course you are. You're too stupid to know the difference.
Mindset. So the idea of an expansion of rights has already gone beyond what the negative view of human rights is, and has gone into positive rights, which is rights constructed by the government, which is whatever the hell they want to make up.
Those are called civil rights. Civil rights.
Next, which is, the Bernie Sanders, Jeremy Corbyn.
It's in the name, civil. It's government.
Well, I've got a thought in my head that should be a human right, trains arriving on time should be a human right. I should have a human right to get shot on a battlefield. Whatever it is. But anyway,
I mean, why shouldn't people have a human right to defend their country? Something wrong with that? I thought Carl was all about traditionalism.
And when the president takes that step with a stroke of the pen, it's a vivid demonstration that they have had their power diminished. They've just lost political power, which compounds their loss of cultural power and makes them feel more and more like victims.
It's like Carl's looking into a fucking mirror.
A week ago, they had a president they saw as a champion of their worldview. Now it's all gone. So liberals can say to them, we hear you. We understand why this is upsetting to you. We're not trying to disrespect you, which that boat has sailed a long time ago, I would say. But we're doing it anyway because it's the right thing to do. That's right. Just tell them to F themselves is basically what the message is. This is, again, just Washington Post contributor. Many conservatives will find the Harriet Tubman bill distressing. So,
all right, let's try to find where Carl skipped to. Talking about the replacement of Andrew Jackson by Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Admittedly, the only reason I'm okay with Andrew Jackson being on the $20 bill is because it is the thing that Andrew Jackson would have hated the most. That's important. It's the only reason I'm okay with it. Other than that, Andrew Jackson was a cunt.
It refers to putting Harriet Tubman on a bill.
Trail of Tears, which led to Yes, Trail of Tears. I mean, okay. Andrew Jackson did one good thing. He beat down South Carolina when they tried to secede. That's the only credit I'll give him.
Which I don't care about at all.
Which I don't care about at all, really.
Even though they could barely tell you the first thing about Andrew Jackson, does that make them racist? The real answer is, it doesn't matter. What's in individual hearts is not really important.
So Carl's proving the point here. The article is saying, many conservatives will find a new Tubman bill distressing, even if they could barely tell you the first thing about Jackson. But what did Carl just do?
Harriet Tubman bill distressing, so it refers to putting Harriet Tubman on a bill, which I don't care about at all.
I don't care about it at all. He just skipped over all the background information on Andrew Jackson.
Even though they could be,
he's a visualization of what this author is talking about.
Barely tell you the first thing about Andrew Jackson.
It's an opinion piece. It's not really news, but it's funny.
Does that make them racist? The real answer is, it doesn't matter. What's in individual hearts is not really important. Oh, so now my intentions and my own concerns just don't matter. They don't matter. To hell with...
Well, of course not. It doesn't... Does that make them racist if they don't know, if they are just upset that Tubman is replacing Jackson, even though they don't know anything about Jackson? Does that make them racist? The real answer is it doesn't matter, because this is a thing we're doing for intellectual reasons.
With you, we're doing it anyway. Why are you even
See, Carl, look, the opinion piece in this part here, I hope you can see my mouse. This paragraph here, many conservatives will find the new Tubman bill ends in what's an individual heart is not really important. This paragraph, or it's a couple of sentences really, but it's divided like a paragraph. Anyway, this paragraph is saying it doesn't matter what conservatives feel. This is an intellectual decision. We're choosing this for intellectual reasons, because we know that it is ethical, we know that it's moral, we know that it is civic. And Carl is complaining because his feels are not being put on the same level as the reals.
still here? Are you getting the message, guys? This is what unity looks like to the left at the moment. Sorry, we don't care. Shut up. It's happening.
Facts don't care about your feelings. That is the left at the moment. Sorry, Carl.
Right? So this is obviously just an appeal to power, right? It doesn't even
No, it's an appeal to intellectualism, but, Carl thinks they're the same thing.
matter.
Well, not really, because Carl likes power, so therefore it can't be intellectualism because Carl hates intellect. Oh, whatever.
It doesn't matter if you're a
It's
racist.
just an Ouroboros of bullshit right now.
Does it make you a racist? Doesn't matter. We don't care. Mina Frago. The left has returned. They're now very unhappy, and they're going to keep feeling these symbolic blows as the news tells them that they're not in charge and that America is moving in a direction they don't like. It's going to make them mad. But the right thing for Democrats to tell them is, we understand your feelings. We get why you don't like this, but we're doing it anyway. You'll get used to it. Wow, that is the most conciliatory and unifying statement and attitude that you could have approached any of this with.
I mean, I don't really see why it should be conciliatory.
Can totally see why conservatives are completely happy with the Biden administration, and they're clearly just going to go along with all of this in perpetuity. There will be no backlash
Well, what's the conciliation that Donald Trump made to the left? Name one.
to this, I'm sure. I'm sure that there won't be a backlash like Donald Trump setting up something called the Office of the Former President. Now, people may scoff at this, but I think it's
He's right, I do.
wonderful.
It's obviously a little bit of a bash at the
Yes.
office of the president-elect.
Yes,
which
it
was
is.
made up by
Also
Joe Biden.
not a thing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is a thing now, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a joke thing.
Yes. I mean, Trump has opened an office. He can do this. Doesn't make it official, but he can still do this. But legitimacy is often built on appearance.
Here's the problem. The office of the former president is currently 5 people. 5, right? Carter, Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Trump. Yeah, 5. 5 people. It's currently 5 people. It's not an office. There's 5 of them. So he's already in trouble because the George Bush Library is not going to want to have to put up with this shit. I think the Obama Institute, or whatever the fuck he started, is going to... I don't care about Obama. I'm sorry. He probably did some nice things in his post-presidency. Whatever. You think that the Carter Foundation is going to be in charge? The Clinton Presidential Library going to want to be associated with the office of the former president? Admittedly, this is progress because by saying it's the office of the former president, Trump is conceding defeat.
And people's interaction with such thing. And the office itself will be responsible for managing Trump's public business. He technically is a former president. So
It's going to be his Twitter feed. He's going to post things there that are statements from the president, and it's just going to be his fucking Twitter feed. It won't have as much of a reach, and that's good, but it's just going to be his Twitter feed. I'm calling it right now. It might start out nice, but let's visit this again in April. It's either going to be gone because it's going to run into legal problems, or it's going to be Donald Trump's Twitter feed just on a website.
I mean, I guess
I would bet money, Carl. I'll bet you, 10 pounds, 20 pounds. That this is just Twitter in 3 months.
Have to get used to it. And there's a bit of fake
Again, if it even exists.
news that was going around that I just want to refute. And I say fake news, it's just not confirmed, really. A state representative from the 32nd District of Florida decided to tweet out, breaking, Hunter Biden is expected to lead the DEA, which is the Drug Enforcement Agency. Now, I mean, like,
Stunning and brave.
yes, I would. That would be one of my favorite things to happen in 2021, were that the case. Obviously, because if
I'm going to say I agree with Jay Spencer here. If Hunter Biden can pass a security check, then who cares? That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't like the nepotism. I'm just loath to cede even an inch to Carl. But if he can pass a security check, unlike Ivanka and Jared, then I don't see a problem.
if anyone doesn't know, Hunter Biden's laptop was taken from
Hunter Biden's laptop, which does not exist, which every intelligence agency on the planet has told you, it wears a flag that says, I'm a Russian plant.
a repair shop. It was given to Giuliani, and Giuliani leaked a bunch of stuff. And one of those
Because it was from the Russians. That's why Giuliani had it.
things, we can get the next one up so we can see the picture. We can scroll down a bit, so we've got some pictures in here. Hopefully it's not
Just skip all the information. I just want to see the picture.
one of him having sex with a 14-year-old. That's right. Hunter Biden looking...
Alleged. I think we should.
alleged, yes, alleged. But I mean, feel free to sue us on that one, Hunter. I'd love to have...
What, Giuliani?
Get out in court.
Having sex with a 15-year-old girl? Well, a girl who he thought was 15, yeah.
Yeah, have it out in court. But there's Hunter Biden, unconscious in bed with a crack pipe hanging out of his mouth. Returning dignity and decency to the White House. That's what the Bidens have done. This was, of course, suppressed by Twitter, and Twitter themselves came out and admitted, you know what, we probably
Well, yeah, they suppressed the naked pictures of the First Lady, too.
shouldn't have suppressed that, because it turned out that something like 10% of voters in the US said that if they'd known about this in advance, they wouldn't have voted for Biden, and that would
That's not true.
have actually put Biden under the requirement. But I suppose the F curve would have just been bigger, so it would have been fine. But
Every person knew about it.
yeah, anyway, the way that this was reporting, incidentally, by
Was literally the reason for impeachment.
the,
The only people who didn't know about it were the people who got their information from Fox News, where they tried to make the impeachment about Russia, and they wouldn't have voted for Biden anyway.
sorry, what, go to the next one. Saying I've archived those. Again, the Washington Post, who just seem to be on the wrong side of absolutely every issue. It's like this is choosing cruelty to publish this sort of stuff, because as they say, it's well known that Hunter Biden's a drug addict. So this is why I think this is obviously fake news. There's no other evidence to suggest that Hunter Biden will be leading the DEA, despite how great that would be. And while he's married to Lena Dunham, which is adorable, don't you think? I don't know why Lena Dunham wants to be Hunter Biden, wants to marry Hunter Biden and be his beautiful
Well, wait, that's not what you said. You said they were married.
wife.
Can't you even get a joke right, Carl? You want to believe you have skills, and I would say that the easiest skill that you claim to have is comedian, but you can't even get the jokes right. God, no wonder no one wants to rape you.
But I have some bad news. I think the beautiful wife section may have already sailed.
Gonna get banned, but whatever.
Maybe you could just be his wife. I mean, you know, that ship's gone. But yeah, so
Side hoe, maybe.
I don't even want to think. But no, I think they'd make a lovely couple, and I'm rooting for them. So yeah, everything in America is going horribly.
What the hell is this? The post-millennial? The fuck is that? I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna look it up. The post-millennial. No fucking idea. Okay, so it's obviously a reactionary site because the first article says the first word of the first article headline is leftists, which only the right cares about. I don't know. I'm just expecting to find like a satire note somewhere in the bottom about us. Okay, the Post Millennial is a reactionary Canadian website. Alright. Founded in 2017. I'm sure there's nothing to do with any inflammatory public figures becoming prominent before 2017 or in 2017 even that had anything to do with that. Jesus Christ, guys, get some real fucking staff pictures. I've seen better photos on Facebook. Our process for reporting, we make sure that our sources are verifiable and trustworthy from multiple accounts. Gather a substantial amount of information before we place something online. Really? Before each story we ultimately publish, are we telling the whole story? Are our sources reputable? Is the story newsworthy? Are we reputable, credible, and transparent? How can we be informative and fair? Only after we are satisfied that we have created something worth publishing and had it reviewed by editors do we publish the piece. Sometimes we find out that what we believed to be true was utterly false. Sometimes we write something that could have had more poise. Sometimes we aren't as unbiased as we'd like. So basically, their About Us page is a giant disclaimer that none of this is news. That's it. That's all there is. That's the site that Carl wants to use as his source. Good job, Carl.
Be horribly wrong. And the left don't care. They don't care about their opinions at all.
I mean, just imagine if Trump Jr. was smoking a crack pipe. I mean, that's the thing that always irritated me with this. Like, okay,
they did a lot worse.
leaked from a laptop. That's Twitter's defense. I don't care.
No one
Like,
ever claims that it's not real, though.
But that's the thing.
Everyone claims it's not real. Everyone in the intelligence and crime investigative community told you it wasn't real, except for Rudy Giuliani, because he's crazy.
If it had come from the other side, shoe on the other foot, what would be going on?
God, it'd be nothing but.
Yeah.
You know, Trump's kids had better watch themselves because it will be constant, invasive interrogation if that were to be the case.
Trump's kids flew with Jeffrey Epstein. They're fine.
But yeah, but the point is, the real point that I've gone through all this is that the ethos behind it, you can see it. They don't care. This talk of unity is actually talk of submission. You know, we're just going to do it. You're going to get used to it. You're going to deal with it. And we don't give a damn about your opinion.
Well, that was their clip show. I guess we're done. Whatever. It's been an hour. That's plenty of time. This was kind of fun. Not as fun as the last one. I'll be fair. Because it's so hard to follow along in these things. Like if this was a prepared video, I'd be able to go and double check all these articles, but doing it live is more motivational. But I also have to pause and read the shit that's on the screen because Carl's a fucking idiot. But oh well. That's all for now. See you guys next time.